Hello YouTube viewers, hope you're all doing good. Welcome to this video. I'm Venkat and this is just me an open source channel. Right, in this video we are going to look at code pipeline in AWS. The example that I'm going to show you today is a very simple pipeline. It has just two stages, a source stage and a deploy stage. So we have the source stage. It just checks out the application repository or your code from the source control. Mm, and the deploy stage, we're going to use the code deploy service to deploy to an EC2 instance. So the workflow for this demo would be like we are going to first create a code commit repository, AWS CodeCommit repository. I've done a video on that. So the previous video, I believe, was the one about code commit. So if you want to know more about code commit and how to create your first code commit repository and how to use SSH keys to check out and push your changes back to the code commit, please follow my previous video. So in this video, we are going to set up a new code repository and then upload a sample application code. And then we are going to create an EC2 instance. So that is where we are going to deploy our sample application. And then we are going to create the deploy actions using CodeDeploy. And finally, we will create the pipeline using CodePipeline service. And in terms of resources, CodeCommit repository, and then we are going to create an EC2 instance and attach an instance role. Because EC2 instance needs to work with code deploy services, so we are going to create an instance role and attach it to this EC2 instance. If you have got an EC2 instance already running, and if you attach this role, you would have to restart your instance for that to take effect. And then we will be deploying a code deploy agent. The agent is just a piece of software that's running on your EC2 instance, and then it gets the command from the code deploy service and then executes that depending on what lifecycle of the pipeline it is in. And then in the deploy stage, we are going to be using code deploy, and we are going to create a service role for the code deploy service to be able to access our EC2 instance. We will then create an application specification, to be frank. The application specification tells what we are actually going to do, and then deployment group, where we are going to deploy our application. So that's the deployment group. So in our case, we are going to deploy that to a simple EC2 instance. We're not going to have any auto scaling group or load balancer or anything. It's just plain simple EC2 instance. So this is my first code pipeline demo. So I will be doing few other pipeline demos, but for the first one, I want to keep things little simple. And the demo that I'm going to be using is in the AWS. So if you want to follow with detailed steps, it's already there in the AWS website, which is what I'm going to take for this video. All right, so that's what we are going to do now. Again, for code pipeline, we are going to create a service role, and we will do all these now. Okay, so let me close that one. And the documentation that I'm going to follow for this tutorial is in AWS. So if you search for code pipeline tutorials, so there it is, docs.aws.amazon.com. I'll put a link to this link to this documentation in the description. So code pipeline, so there are lots of tutorials that I can try. So I wanted to pick up a simple one. So this one is the one I'm going to go for. Create a simple pipeline using CodeCommit. I want to create a two-stage pipeline that uses code deploy to deploy a sample application from a CodeCommit repository to an Amazon EC2 instance running Amazon Linux. Okay. So if I click that, so I'm going to keep that as a reference. So let me move that as a separate window. So this is what it is, and we are going to start doing our code pipeline repository. Okay, so without wasting further time, let's start right into it. So I'm going to leave this documentation with you so that you can read through step by step or line by line if you want to understand it. But I'm going to speed through what you exactly need to do and so on. Okay, the first thing is to create a code commit repository. I've already logged into my Amazon AWS account using my account. I'm not using the root account, so I'm using a separate account which has got admin access to it. Okay, so search for code commit. Right, so create repository page. We're going to give it a name, my demo repo. Description is optional. Create. Okay, so we've got the repository. If we go back to the repositories, that's my demo repository. We don't have anything at the moment. And to download that to your local workstation, I'm going to use SSH. Or if you want HTTPS, you need to set up credentials for accessing the repository and pushing back to the repository. And for SSH, I've done that video. You can watch that video on how to create your SSH key and upload that to SSH credentials in AWS. Okay, so that's copied. So that's the URL of my CodeCommit repository. I am going to launch a terminal, cd to play directory, and let's check it out here. Git clone and the copied URL. Okay, so we are in there, cd to my demo repo. There's nothing in here. We are going to download sample application code and upload that into the CodeCommit repository. Okay, so that's done. Add a sample code, download the following file. So I'm gonna right click and copy the link address. Okay, I'm gonna use wget to download that. Okay, so I've got the application code as a zip file, sample app underscore linux.zip. Okay, I'm gonna cd to my demo repo, unzip the sample application. Okay, so we have our sample application here. Let me push that to the CodeCommit repository. Git status, git add dot git status. So that's the one we are going to commit. Git commit -m for message, added application code. Okay, and git push. Okay, cool. So we are done. And if I take a look at the my demo repository, and you can see all the files in there. So we have checked out the empty repository, we've downloaded the sample application code, and we have pushed it back to the CodeCommit repository. Okay, so that's good. And let me also show you what's in here. So if I show you index.html, it's just a plain HTML file. It says, congratulations, the application was deployed using AWS CodeDeploy. Okay, so that's the application that we are trying to deploy. It's a simple web page that we are trying to deploy. And that is appspec.yaml. Let's take a look at that. Appspec. So this is needed. This is the thing that tells you what needs to be done. So the main source that we want to copy is index.html, and where we want to copy that inside var www.html in our EC2 instance. Okay, there are certain hooks associated in the pipeline stage. So before install, after install, before starting, after starting, before shutdown, after shutdown. There are lots of lifecycle events, and the one we are interested in is before install. So before install, we are going to run this script. So I'll show you that script in a minute. Scripts install dependencies, and then set the timeout as 300. So this script will be run, and if it exceeds like 5 minutes, it will get the script will be terminated, and it will be run as root user. And then we are going to start the server and application stop. Whenever we stop the application, or whenever the hook, the event for application stop is received, it will run this script, stop server. Okay, so that's a very simple application specification. And if I cd to scripts directory, here you can see the 3 scripts that I was talking about a while ago. Okay, so if I take a look into install dependencies, it's a very simple script. It just installs the HTTPD package, start server, service HTTPD start, that's it. Stop server, it just checks if HTTPD process is running. If it's running, then it will stop the HTTPD service. Okay, so that's all we have as an application code. Okay, so we don't need that terminal anymore. Add sample code to your code commit repository, which we have done. And the next step is to create our Amazon EC2 instance. So for that, we are first going to create an instance role. So if I go to IAM and click on the roles, and then click create role, choose the service that will use this role, EC2. Okay, EC2, and then click next permissions, create policy. No, next permissions, search for and select the policy named Amazon EC2 role for code deploy. So if you just search for code deploy, it should pop up code deploy. Okay, this one is the one. Amazon EC2 role for AWS CodeDeploy, and then next tags. If you want, you can add tag. Okay, role name. I'm going to use EC2 instance role. Role description, you don't have to worry about it. Create role. Okay, so we have created our role. So now we are good to launch our EC2 instance. Go to EC2. As you can see, I don't have any instances running, and I'm going to launch an instance. And I'm going to pick up Amazon Linux 2 AMI, select. I'm going to go with the free T2 micro. Configure instance details. I'm going to leave everything as default, but there is one thing that I want to do here, which is advanced details. So if you watched one of my videos, I've shown how to bootstrap your EC2 instance. If you want to run something when the instance is launched, this is where you need to put. Okay, so configure instance detail, number of instance 1 in IAM role. Okay, I think I need to do something else. Yeah, IAM role. So we need to attach the IAM role that we just created, which is EC2 instance role. Okay, so that's done. In the advanced details, I'm just going to copy this set of commands here. So what it does is it basically installs the code deploy agent. So as you know, Amazon Linux 2, the AMI we are using is an Ubuntu. Sorry, it doesn't seem to be an Ubuntu. Okay, so yum update, yum install Ruby for dependencies. It's going to use AWS CLI, and then we already attached the EC2 instance role to that, so it can talk to other services, and it downloads, copies the install script, and then runs the install script. So that one will set up the code deploy agent on this EC2 instance. Okay, so next, add storage. I'm going to leave everything as default. Add tag. This one is little important, I guess. Yeah, add tag, because when it comes to creating the code deploy application and the deployment group, we need to tell which set of servers we are going to deploy the application to. So that will be taken care by tags. So it will look at the tags, and based on the tags, it will deploy our application to a group of EC2 instance. In our case, just one EC2 instance. So I'm going to add a tag, and the tag name is my code pipeline demo. My code pipeline demo. Okay. And then configure security group, create a new security group. Let's create a new security group. SSH, I'm going to change that to my IP. I don't want to open it to public. And then because we are deploying a web application, we need to open port 80, which is HTTP. Again, this is testing, so I'm going to open up the port only for my IP here. Okay, and then review and launch. It's going to ask you for the key pair. So I've already got an existing key pair. If you don't have a key pair, you will be given an option to create a new key pair here. So choose an existing key pair or create a new key pair. I already have a key pair. I'm going to acknowledge and then launch instance. So the instance will be launched in a couple of minutes. So the moment it's pending, it's going to take like a couple of minutes for the instance to launch. And then we can go ahead and create an application in CodeDeploy. So the next set of steps we are going to do is all about CodeDeploy. And then finally, we go to the code pipeline. Okay. All right. Our instance is running. And let me go to code deploy. Code deploy. Yep, we have our code deploy. Go to applications on the left. And then we are going to create an application name, my demo application, compute platform, select EC2 on-premise, create application. Okay, and then now we are going to create a deployment group to create a code deploy service role. Oh, okay, so we should have created a role before because we need that role. Okay, let's go back to IAM and then roles, create role, and we are going to use code deploy. And then again, we are going to select code deploy for the use case and click next permissions. And here, what you want to choose is code deploy. Okay, choose next permissions, next tags, next review. Okay, so role name, code deploy role description, everything is okay. Create role. Okay, I should have done this one first, but that doesn't matter because when you're creating a deployment group, which is when it will be asking for the service role. Okay, now let's go back to code deploy. We have our application. If I click on the application, we've created that application. So now we are going to create the deployment group. Create deployment group. Okay, so it has auto selected the application because we are in that application and we are creating a deployment group for that application. Compute type is EC2 on-premise. Deployment group name, enter a deployment group name. Okay, so I'm going to say my demo deployment group service role. So this is where you need to specify the service that you just created. Code deploy role. Deployment type in place or blue green. So there's a slight difference here. In place is if you've got an EC2 instance and if you want to deploy an application, the in place update. So whenever you update your application code, it's going to deploy the updated application onto your EC2 instance. In place is just delete the application or uninstall the application and install the application on top of it. So there will be a slight downtime for your application. But if you want to test your application, you should go for the blue-green deployment, in which case it will create an additional instance, EC2 instance, and then it will install the application. Once the application is healthy and it's ready, it will decommission or terminate the old instance. So that's blue-green. So in our demo, we're just using one EC2 instance, but if you've got like 2 or 3 EC2 instance behind a load balancer, then if you use blue-green deployment, it will create additional EC2 instances, install the application, and when they are ready, it will terminate the old instances. So that's kind of blue-green. Environment configuration, you're going to select Amazon EC2 instance, key, my code pipeline demo. So it's going to choose all the EC2 instances that has the tag my code pipeline demo. So when we created the EC2 instance, we attached the tag my code pipeline demo for that one instance. So I'm having only one EC2 instance running at the moment anyway. Okay, so as you can see here, matching instances. So one unique matched instance. So it already found my instance that's having the tag my code pipeline demo. Okay, deployment setting. This is again something you want to consider. So code deploy default dot all at once if you've got multiple EC2 instance, and if you want to deploy it, whether you want to deploy all the servers, deploy the application on all the servers at once, or half at a time. If you've got like 10 EC2 instances, 5 will be updated, and then once that's done, another 5 will be updated, or one at a time. Just take one EC2 instance and install the application, then move on to the next. So it doesn't matter for in our case because we have just one EC2 instance. Load balancer, we are not using load balancer. I will do a demo on that sometime later. So for this demo, we are not going to be using load balancer. Advanced, optional, we don't have anything here. Create deployment group. Okay, so that's done. And now we are good to go to the pipeline. Okay, so either you can go to services and search for code pipeline, or it's right here, code pipeline, pipelines, and then create a pipeline, give it a name. What shall we give? My first pipeline. My first pipeline. Service role, new service role. If you have already created a service role, you can select the existing service role, but we haven't created any service role yet. So new service role, that will be the name of the service role. Allow AWS Code Pipeline to create a service role. So you need to check this checkbox for AWS to automatically create the service role for us. Advanced settings, default location, artifact store. So the pipeline stage, whenever it creates some artifacts, where do you want to store your artifacts? Whether you want to create a new S3 bucket, or if you've got an already existing S3 bucket that you want to use for storing all the artifacts, you can select that. So I'm going to select the default location, which will create a new S3 bucket for me. Encryption key, default AWS managed key, that's okay. New source provider. Okay, so let's check CodeCommit repository, or if you've got it in the GitHub, you can do that as well. So we've got it in the AWS CodeCommit, and choose your repository. We have just one repository, which is my demo repo. We have one branch, which is master. Amazon CloudWatch event. So how do you want to detect the change? So whenever you submit your change to the CodeCommit repository, CloudWatch events will be an event will be generated. So based on the CloudWatch event, your pipeline will get triggered. Or you can configure your pipeline to check for the code commit changes periodically. So you can say every 5 minutes, I want to check my code commit repository to see if there are any changes or not. Or the best way would be to leave it to the CloudWatch event. So an event will be fired whenever you submit a change to your code commit repository, and the pipeline will be triggered automatically. All right, so now I'm going to click next. Build optional. We don't have any build stage. It's just two stage. Source, check out the source and then deploy it to EC2 instance. So it's just a very simple two-stage pipeline. So we don't have any build stage. So I'm going to click skip build stage. Skip deploy provider. Okay, so now choose how you want to deploy to the instances. AWS CodeDeploy service is the one that we are going to use. Region London. Application name is my demo application, which we just created. Deployment group, my demo deployment group, which we also created. Next, okay, so now we are going to, it shows a review screen. If you want to change any of your settings, you can go back. And now I'm going to click create pipeline. Okay, so when I click create pipeline, it's going to automatically start building, or a policy called AWS Code Pipeline Service already exists. All right, so I've cleaned up all the policies and all the roles that I've used in my previous demo. So I'm starting all from scratch now. We have created the application. We have created the deployment group. So now we are about to create the pipeline. So sorry about all those confusion. Create pipeline. Let me call it first pipeline, and then click next. Source provider is AWS CodeCommit. My demo repo branch is master. Click next. We don't have a build stage, so let's skip that. Deployment provider is AWS CodeDeploy. Application name is my demo application. Deployment group is my demo deployment group. Click next, review, and then click create pipeline. So I think it should work this time because I've cleaned up all the um, roles and policies that I've used in my previous demo. Okay, so it's creating the pipeline, and it has created, and it's already running the source stage. So it's checking out the code from our code commit repository, and then it will deploy that application to our EC2 instance. So yeah, so the first stage, the source stage, is complete, and now it's running the deployment stage. Okay, I think it will take about a minute or two. The deploy stage is currently in progress. All right, cool. So our application has been deployed to the EC2 instance. Let's verify that. So I'm going to leave this page as it is. and I'm going to open EC2 in a new tab. Okay, so that's our EC2 instance, and if I click on the running instances, so that's our running instance, and I'm going to copy the public DNS name of the instance, and I'm going to open that up. Okay, cool. Congratulations. This application was deployed using AWS CodeDeploy. That's cool. So this is a very simple pipeline using a source stage and then using AWS CodeDeploy to deploy it to an EC2 instance. Okay, so now if you want to update your code, you just need to concentrate on your code. You update your code, and whenever you push your code back to CodeCommit repository, a CloudWatch event will be fired, and then the pipeline will get triggered automatically, and it will check out the CodeCommit repository, and then it will deploy a new version of your application onto your EC2 instance. So let's give that a try. Okay, so I'm going to open up a terminal, cd to the repository vi index.html. So I'm going to delete everything. Okay, so we should have a sample code here. Okay, so this is the new code which I'm going to copy and paste it here. Okay, so git status index.html has been modified. Git add git status git commit -m updated index.html git push. Okay, that's done. So now if I go back to pipeline, so it should trigger a new build. So it should start a new pipeline. It should have triggered a pipeline, and then in a short while you will see the source stage will begin to run. Oh, okay, source stage already completed, and it's now in the deployment stage. It only took a few seconds, so just now, and it's currently deploying the new version of our application into the EC2 instance. So whenever you whenever you update your code to GitHub, or in our case CodeCommit, it's going to trigger an CloudWatch alarm, CloudWatch event, and then the pipeline will get triggered automatically, and our application has been deployed successfully. Let's go and verify that. And if I click refresh, so that's our new version of the application. All right, cool. That's all I wanted to show you in this video. Sorry about the confusion I had in the middle, because I tried the entire video a few times before recording this video. So I didn't actually delete the resources. So if you want to delete the resources, first let's start with the pipeline. So we have the pipeline here, and you have to delete the pipeline first. Pipelines, if you select that one, you can create delete pipeline, type in delete. Okay, so delete the pipeline deleted, we don't have any pipeline. And if you go to deploy applications, select the application. Now you have to go into the application and then delete the application, type delete. Okay, so application deleted, and if you go to S3, it would have automatically created an S3 bucket for you. So that's where it stores all the artifacts. So select that bucket and then click delete. It requires the name of the bucket to be entered. Copy and paste it. Confirm. Okay, bucket is gone, and let's go to EC2. And we have one running instance. I'm going to select that instance, action, instance state, terminate. Yes, terminate. And we are going to delete the security group. If you try to delete the security group now, it won't let you delete, because the EC2 instance is still being deleted. So once the EC2 instance is gone, you will then be able to delete the security group. But meanwhile, we'll go ahead and delete the policies and the roles that we created. So if we go to IAM and go to roles, And if you expand this, okay, I think I need to maximize my window here. Okay, cool. So AWS first pipeline, that one was the one that I created for my previous video. And then these two roles, EC2 instance role, then click CodeDeploy role as well. Okay, click delete role. Yes, delete. So that's all gone. If you go to policies and then search for, select the customer managed policies. These are the policies that we created. So select and policy action, delete, delete. Okay, so click and delete. All right, so that's done. Last two policies, delete, delete, and the final policy, delete. Okay, so that's done. Let's go back to the EC2 instance, EC2 dashboard. Look at instances. Okay, so that's terminated. Now we should be able to delete the security group that we created. Security group, so that's the one. Action, delete security group. So now we are able to delete it. Okay, cool. That's it. So we've teared down our environment completely. All the resources we have deployed, we have deleted them. All right, so that's it I wanted to show you in this video. Thank you so much for your time watching this video. If you've got any questions or any feedback, just let me know in the comments. I should be able to get back to you at the earliest. And I would suggest you to go through this video a couple of times and then play with it. Just using your free tier account, just play with this one, code pipeline, code commit, and code repository. Sorry, code deploy, and so on. And if you've got any doubt, please let me know, and I will be able to respond to you in the comments. All right. If you like this video, please share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I will see you all in my next video. Bye bye.